HighBridge, a division of Recorded Books, presents A Pocket Guide to Pigeon Watching, Getting to Know the World's Most Misunderstood Bird, by Rosemary, Mosco. Read by Janet Metzger. Introduction. Why watch pigeons? I will show you my pigeons, which is the greatest treat, in my opinion, which can be offered to a human being. Charles Darwin. How do you feel about pigeons? Maybe you hate them. Tons of people do. Perhaps you loathe their dusty-looking feathers, or the way they swarm the sidewalks, or the fact that they're allowed to poop anywhere they want, but you always have to find a bathroom. Or maybe you're just apathetic about pigeons. That's a common sentiment, too. For most of us, pigeons are mundane fixtures of life. They're mere flickers of movement in the background. Pigeons aren't flashy or vivid. They're gray, white, or red-brown, the colors of metal, concrete, and dirt. They're not very loud. They can be pests, but they don't sting or bite. Nobody shows up on the nightly news with dramatic gashes from a pigeon attack. Pigeons are just sort of there. But these birds are an important part of the background. You'll find them almost everywhere, on every continent but Antarctica, from the northern tip of Norway to the southern tip of Chile, and on lonely islands out in the middle of the ocean. They coo, peck, and nest in most of the world's towns and cities. In fact, they're such a critical part of the metropolitan scenery that movie directors go out of their way to include them in urban shots. For the climactic scene of the movie Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, animal handlers carefully trained 500 pigeons to sit, stay, and fly to hidden cages outside the camera's view. Only about 200 birds were present in any given shot, and handlers regularly rotated out the birds so that Hollywood's rigorous filming schedule wouldn't tire them. How did pigeons become so ubiquitous that movie directors would go to this much trouble? The answer will shock you. Until recently, pigeons weren't just extras in the movies of our lives. They were the stars. People all over the world kept them as pets, held pigeon beauty contests, ate them in gourmet dishes, and pitted them against each other in high-stake races. In many places, these traditions persist. In others, they're on the rise. There are probably pigeon keepers near you. Throughout much of the history of warfare, soldiers strapped canisters with important messages to the legs, bellies, or backs of pigeons. When the birds braved artillery fire and gas to successfully deliver their intel, people rewarded them with prestigious medals. Wherever pigeon keepers traveled, they carted their birds with them. Some pigeons flew the coop and went feral. That's why you can find them in places they didn't originally inhabit, like North and South America and Australia. Pigeons are everywhere, and people are to blame. Some of our most notable historical figures were pigeon-obsessed. The Mughal Emperor Akbar treasured his birds and used them to impress his guests. Who needs a glass of fine wine when you can feast your eyes on a pigeon? The great evolutionary theorist Charles Darwin loved them too. He kept and bred his own flock, and they helped inspire his ideas about evolution. And then there's the case of Nikola Tesla, famous inventor and lovelorn pigeon nurse. Tesla fed crumbs to pigeons from the window of his home at New York's Hotel Pennsylvania. Whenever a sick pigeon would appear at his sill, he'd capture it and send it to the ASPCA Animal Hospital for care. His relationship with one particular white bird was the love story of Tesla's life, according to his biographer, John J. O'Neill. "Yes, I loved that pigeon," Tesla told O'Neill. "I loved her as a man loves a woman, and she loved me. As long as I had her, there was a purpose in my life, which is certainly something. When the pigeon passed away, Tesla felt that purpose leave him. What's so special about pigeons, and why do people fall head over heels for them? This book answers the question. You'll discover that pigeons are behaviorally bizarre, they feed milk to their young, anatomically fascinating, they have 3 eyelids and lungs that don't expand, and historically compelling. They were so deeply involved in class struggles that they could have starred in Les Miserables. You'll also gain all the tools you need to become a pigeon watcher. If you're a pigeon hater, this book could change your mind. And who knows, maybe you'll even fall in love. There's a pigeon movie database. Want to know more about pigeons in movies? The Pigeon Movie Database, PMDB, is a truly astonishing project that tracks pigeons' appearances in films and discusses their symbolism. It also pays tribute to film characters that are friendly to pigeons, including the birdseed seller from Mary Poppins and Roy Batty from Blade Runner. Visit it at pigeonmoviedatabase.com. A pigeon by any other name. Here are a few non-English names for the pigeon. Afrikaans, Tayendief. Arabic, Hamamatun. Chinese, Goetzi. Dutch, Rotsdief. French, Pigeon Bisset. German, Felsentaube. Hindi, Kabute. Indonesian, Merpati Batu. Italian, Piccioni Selvatico. Persian, Kabutard. Scots, Kalamankriegia. Spanish, Paloma Bravia. Swahili, Njiwa Mgini. Thai, Nakpirab. 10 reasons to watch pigeons. 1. It's free. 2. Pigeons are often easy to find, especially in urban areas where other wildlife is scarce. You can watch them on long drives, during boring commutes, or on lunch breaks. If you're in a dull meeting, take a peek outside and enjoy the soap opera of pigeon life. 3. Pigeons are gentle and safe to watch, so long as you look out for their poop. They won't attack you, screech at you, or spray you with a noxious scent. If they do, you have misidentified your pigeons. 4. They do strange and wonderful things. They blink with 3 eyelids, kiss with vigor, feed milk to their babies, and applaud themselves after sex. Their lives are both alarmingly alien and charmingly familiar. 5. If you're searching for dating tips, look no further than a species that mates for life, usually, and dances to impress. 6. Pigeons are food for many birds of prey. If you can find pigeons, you can find majestic hawks, falcons, owls, and all sorts of other shy aerial predators. The more you watch these birds, the more you'll appreciate the full breadth of nature that's quietly making a living all around you. 7. Thanks to some fascinating genetics, pigeons come in a variety of colors, patterns, and plumages. You'll find birds with funny feathery socks, odd-colored eyes, and dazzling hues from red to blue to white. Try to spot them all. 8. As our domesticated companions for millennia, pigeons have a lot to teach us about human history and culture. If given the power to speak, any pigeon could teach a master class on colonialism, inequality, architecture, agriculture, and changing food preferences. 9. Rescued pigeons make great pets, and if you're concerned about poop, you can dress your pigeon in a custom-made rhinestone-studded diaper. Seriously. 10. It's a hard world. Sometimes you just need to look at a soft bird. Part 1. Basic Pigeonology. Why Pigeons Are Dinosaurs, Doves, and Puppies. Professor Pidge welcomes you to Pigeons 101. What is a pigeon? Where did the name pigeon come from? Who are a pigeon's closest relatives? And why are there pigeons everywhere? Before you start watching these birds in earnest, you need to know what the heck you're looking at. Here's a quick pigeon primer. Pigeons are dinosaurs. It's true. Pigeons are birds, and birds evolved from dinosaurs. More specifically, from a group of dinosaurs called theropods, of which Tyrannosaurus rex is the most famous member. If you want to see incontrovertible evidence of this bird-dino connection, look to the exquisitely preserved fossils of feather-coated dinosaurs that paleontologists began to unearth in China in the 1990s. Chickens, sparrows, parrots, crows, and all the other birds we see around us every day are dinosaurs as well, scientifically speaking. We live in Jurassic Park. Hold on to your butts. Pigeons and dinosaurs share another special connection. Many dinosaurs had 2 feathery wings. But back in the Cretaceous period, certain dinos, known as Microraptorians, had 4 wings. Their legs sprouted asymmetrical wing-like feathers that may have helped them glide. Though the Microraptorians are extinct, some fancy pigeon breeds, like the beautifully named fairy swallows, are able to grow wing feathers on their legs. It's as if pigeons and dinosaurs are high-fiving each other across the mists of time. Scientists aren't sure when the first pigeons strutted onto the scene. Birds emerged in the Jurassic period, some 150 million years ago. There aren't many ancient pigeons in the fossil record, but DNA evidence suggests that the earliest pigeons may have evolved roughly 60 million years ago, 6 million years after a catastrophic asteroid strike wiped out so many of the critters we associate with dinosaur times. The age of non-bird dinos was over, but the glorious reign of the pigeons had just begun. Pigeons are doves. Try this. Think about what the words pigeon and dove mean to you. Many people think of pigeons as dirty and doves as peaceful, elegant, and even holy. But you've been fooled by Big Dove. Technically speaking, pigeons and doves are the same thing. All species of pigeons and doves belong to a scientific family of birds called Columbidae. What's a scientific family? Here's a refresher from biology class. Scientists split living things into groups based on what they're related to. There are groupings within groupings, nested like a set of Russian dolls. A species is a group of very closely related living things that can breed with each other and make offspring that can breed too. You belong to the species Homo sapiens. A group of closely related species is called a genus, plural genera. Neanderthals and other early humans were part of the genus Homo. A group of genera is called a family. Humans belong to the great ape family, along with chimps, orangutans, and gorillas. A group of families is called an order, and there are larger and larger groupings until you get to the largest and most basic group, all living things. Pigeons and doves all fall within the Columbidae family, but inside that family, there's no real distinction between the birds we call pigeons and those we label doves. They're not 2 separate groups, genetically or evolutionarily speaking. In general, people tend to call the bigger members of Columbidae pigeons and the smaller, daintier birds doves, but there are plenty of exceptions. Consider the hefty wampu fruit dove, which can measure 18 inches, 46 centimeters, in length, longer than a loaf of bread. Then there's the wee dwarf fruit dove, which can be 6 inches, 15 centimeters long, about the length of a dollar bill. Plus, the doves that we release at weddings are either white domesticated rock pigeons or white domesticated ring-necked doves. Most people can't tell the difference. Don't release doves. When we toss these gentle pets into unfamiliar surroundings, they tend to starve, get hit by cars, or succumb to predators. Since there's no evolutionary distinction between the birds called pigeons and those called doves, these aren't scientifically valid categories. So, why the heck does English have two different words for the same bird? The confusion may date back to the Norman conquest of England in 1066. The invading Normans spoke French, so once they arrived, French words began to work their way into the English language. The word pigeon is French and originates from the classical Latin word pipiare, meaning chirp or cheep. Dove, on the other hand, has Old English, Norse, and German roots, and may come from a word for dive or dip, perhaps a reference to the bird's head bobbing, or their ability to dive through the air. As English-speaking people encountered various species of doves and pigeons, they named them one or the other somewhat indiscriminately. What a mess. Pigeons/doves aren't the only critters that have two names in English, one coming from French. For example, the word cow has English roots, but slaughtered cows become beef, from the French bœuf. Swimming pigeons. The name for the pigeon family, Columbidae, comes from the Latin word for pigeon, columba. It's a twist on an ancient Greek word for swimming and diving, columbao. Maybe the ancient Greeks thought that pigeons in flight looked like they were swimming through the air. Or perhaps the head-bobbing pigeons reminded the Greeks of swimmers ducking their heads below the water. Psst! Pigeons don't really bob their heads. Peristeronic pedantry. If you want to make your pigeon-watching habits sound fancy, describe them as being peristeronic. This term was invented in the mid-1800s by a founder of an English pigeon club. Searching for a grand title for his group, he invented the word philoperisteron from Greek words for the love of, philo, and pigeon, peristera. The Philoperisteron Society later became known as the National Peristeronic Society, another odd but grand-sounding mix of English and Greek. It's all nonsense, but it's pretty nonsense. The pigeon family is weird and wonderful. Regardless of what you call them, the members of the family Columbidae are diverse and amazing. They share some general characteristics. These species tend to have short, skinny beaks, stubby necks, and stout bodies, and many of them build messy, haphazard nests and eat fruit or seeds. But they come in a mind-blowing variety of colors, shapes, and sizes. Here are a few of the strangest species. Dodo. Yes, the world's most famous extinct bird was a flightless pigeon. Poor dodos don't deserve their reputation as slow, stupid birds. They were agile, and their flightless wings were muscular, possibly helping them maintain their balance as they ran through the forest. Nicobar pigeon. The dodo's likely closest living relative is also the world's most spectacular pigeon, the glam rocker of Columbidae. Native to Southeast Asia, it's an iridescent rainbow of a bird. A long mane of plumes spills down from its storm-gray head. Just wow! Galapagos dove. The Galapagos Islands are full of animals found nowhere else, including a unique pigeon. The Galapagos dove has striking blue eyeliner, rosy legs, and a streaky brown body. It munches on seeds, insects, and cactus blossoms. Victoria crowned pigeon. This is one of the heftiest pigeon species, weighing up to nearly 5.33 pounds, 2.4 kilograms. It's also one of the fanciest, with dark eyeliner and a crest like an exquisitely sewn doily. It lives in New Guinea, where its population is declining because of habitat loss and poaching. Laughing dove. The laughing dove's call sounds like someone going, woo-hoo-hoo-hoo-hoo. But the reason for its chortling is deadly serious. It's trying to woo a mate. The laughing dove is an abundant, commonly seen bird, laughing it up across Africa and parts of Asia. Cararoo. A New Zealand species, the cararoo is a colorful, portly bird that loves to eat fruit from native plants like maho and non-native species like cherries. Sometimes the fruit ferments inside its crop, and the bird gets drunk on its own home-brewed alcohol. It can get so intoxicated that it passes out and falls from its perch. Wildlife care centers often become inundated with inebriated birds brought in by concerned citizens. Orange dove. Found in Fiji, this striking bird looks like a huge ripe orange with a tiny lime on top. It mostly eats fruit, so maybe it's also fruit-flavored? Please don't eat it. The orange dove's peculiar call sounds like a metronome ticking away. Luzon bleeding heart. Like other bleeding heart doves, this species looks like it's been shot through the heart and you're to blame. But that red patch is made of feathers, not blood. Native to the Philippines, the Luzon bleeding heart dove is shy and hard to spot in the wild. All of the bleeding heart doves are threatened with extinction. The Luzon bleeding heart is the least endangered. Sadly, about a third of the members of Columbidae are in trouble, threatened by overhunting and our insatiable appetite for land. But there's one species of pigeon that you'll see almost everywhere you go. It's a stout-bodied bird with plumage that varies from white to brick red to gray to black. You'll find it in big cities and under highway overpasses. You'll spot it in rural areas, especially where there's grain to eat. It lives on every continent except Antarctica, and it's the topic of this book. Let's home in on this special bird. Meet the pigeon. So, what should we call this bird? It really depends on who you ask. English-speaking people call it by several names, including rock pigeon, since it sometimes lives on rocky cliffs, rock dove, since pigeons are also doves, and common pigeon, because it's common, which is accurate, but honestly so bland. Bird enthusiasts frequently engage in heated debates about the right name. The American Ornithological Society, which compiles the official bird checklists of North and Middle America, currently goes with rock pigeon. A 2018 proposal to change the name to rock dove, to avoid confusion with an Australian bird called the rock pigeon, was struck down, but not before ruffling some feathers. This problem isn't limited to pigeons. Many other plants and animals have a slew of common names. Consider the large brown North American mammal that burrows in soil and eats your garden plants. In English, you'd call it the groundhog, or, alternately, the woodchuck, woodshock, whistlepig, whistler, red monk, Canada marmot, thickwood badger, or, amazingly, land beaver. And there are plenty of non-English names, too. Whew! Scientists, in a desperate attempt to bring some clarity to this classification problem, developed their own naming system called binomial nomenclature. These scientific names consist of two words. The first word is the name of the critter's genus, and the second is the specific epithet which distinguishes that species within the genus. To make these scientific names stand out from common names, scientists write them in italics, with the first word capitalized. So, when the German naturalist Johann Friedrich Gmelin first provided an extensive scientific description of the pigeon in 1789, he called it Columba livia. Fancy, right? The genus name Columba comes from the Latin word for dove. The species name livia refers to its dark leaden hue. As scientific names go, it's not bad. It's clear, descriptive, and pretty easy to pronounce. This isn't always the case. Consider the critter with the longest scientific name, the Myxobacterium Myxococcus which recently edged out the fly Parastratiosphecomyia stratosphecomyioides for longest on the books. Or ponder purely hilarious names like the beetle Agravation and the snail Ba humbugi. So this book focuses on the species Columba levia, but let's keep things simple and step away from the Latin. Many people just call Columba levia the pigeon, since it's the pigeon species that most people see. That's how we'll refer to it from here on out, the pigeon. Just don't forget that it's not the only pigeon. It's Columba levia, one of many species in a big, beautiful pigeon family. Pigeons are puppies. If you're a dog owner, you've heard this story. Once upon a time, thousands and thousands of years ago, we're not exactly sure when, or whether it happened multiple times, some wolves hung out near humans and slowly turned into domestic dogs. Humans chose wolves with particularly desirable traits, gentleness or protectiveness or strange-looking fur, and bred them together to produce a variety of groupings or breeds that shared common characteristics. Nowadays, dogs come in hundreds of breeds, from tiny chihuahuas to powerful Rottweilers to curly-haired poodles. Most of them are a far cry from those rugged ancient wolves, especially when we dress them in little tutus. The story of pigeons is pretty much the same. Thousands of years ago in the Fertile Crescent, some folks realized that pigeons were easy to care for. Again, we're not exactly sure where or when this happened, and it probably happened multiple times. But we do know that these pigeon-keeping people built special houses where pigeons could nest. They chose birds that had desirable traits, meatiness, or gentleness, or pretty feathers, and mated them together, developing hundreds of breeds to serve all sorts of purposes. For most of us, these breeds are less familiar than dog breeds, but they're no less weird and wonderful. The droopy-faced Scandaroon, the enormous American Giant Runt, the goofy-sounding Thai Laugher. As with dog evolution, most purebred birds are a far cry from those rugged ancient pigeons, especially when we dress them in rhinestone diapers. As these pigeon-loving people have traveled over millennia, they've taken their birds with them. They even carried them to new continents. European settlers brought pigeons to North America at the start of the 17th century. Wherever pigeons went, some of them escaped. That wasn't unexpected. Domesticated animals often run loose and set up thriving wild populations. We have a word for these creatures: ferals. The world is full of feral dogs, cats, pigs, horses, and goats. Pigeons followed the same path. When they escaped, they didn't go far. Bred to live alongside humans, they nested on our houses and ate our grain and trash. It was what they knew. Here's the most mind-blowing thing about feral pigeons. Their history explains why they come in so many different colors. See, feral dogs vary in color because they're a blend of different breeds. Free of the pressures of human-directed breeding, they make all sorts of beautiful mutts. Feral pigeons are the same. Their grays, reds, browns, whites, and blacks are an expression of their complex heritage. Some of them even retain extravagant domestic traits like feathery feet or crests. But there's one massive difference between feral dogs and feral pigeons. Most of us know that feral dogs were once pets, but we've forgotten why our cities, towns, and farms are packed with pigeons. We consider them pests. We trap them, shoot them, and hurl perhaps the ultimate insult at them. We call them rats with wings. Ouch. Sorry, rats. So how did pigeons go from puppies to pests? Here is their story. Other feral fauna. Cats released on islands have contributed to the extinction of many birds, such as the island of Reunion's portly Reunion pink pigeon, driven to extinction around 1700. Dogs have learned to ride Moscow's subway system, begging for treats and pats from riders. Donkeys
Sample complete. Ready to continue?